that actually working? Is it on?
No. Is it on?
Is it on? No. Okay, it is now. Well, I do want to introduce our panelists for the evening. So please come forward when I call your name. So Chandra Williams, and Chandra Williams currently serves as the executive director of Crossroads Cultural Center in Clarksville, Mississippi. She holds a Bachelor's of Fine Arts focused on printmaking and drawing from Washington University in St. Louis. I know you've got stuff there at the end, so you want to be at the end there?
Wherever, no, I don't need to be at the end.
Okay. All right.
But I can.
Okay. Okay, that's fine. At Washington University in St. Louis, and has studied history of various African art forms, including the Mississippi Delta Blues. Tyler Yarbrough is a project manager for Partnership for a Healthier America, and PHA's work in the Mississippi Delta. He's born and raised in Clarksville, Mississippi, and I have to say, he was an integral part in organizing the Center's Weekend in his hometown this past May, having written the open letter to Warner Brothers that set all of that in motion. So, okay, Nina Parikh is an experienced director, currently serving as director of Film Mississippi. That's the new name for the Mississippi Film Office, is Film Mississippi. The new branding, which fosters the growth of the film industry in the state, connects filmmakers with necessary resources, and cultivates and promotes filmmaking by, for, and about Mississippians. And Reverend Slim, better known as Reverend Slim, Adrian Miles Forrest, was born and raised in Grenada, Mississippi, where he grew up surrounded by gospel quartet music. After graduating from Grenada High, Reverend Slim studied music education at Mississippi Valley State University, where he sharpened his skills in arranging and recording. His career has taken him across genres from hip hop and gospel to Southern soul and traditional blues. He's worked with big names like Ice-T and Bootsy Collins, baby. Kira Sheard, Eminem, Willie Clayton, and more. In 2023, Tennessee State University Marching Band earned a Grammy Award for their collaboration with Reverend Slim and others. And last but not least is Jay Wesley. He's a member of the Mississippi Band of Choctaw Indians and the director for the Department of Chanta Imi. You have to correct me on that one when you get up here, Jay. The author of the new book, Choctaw Traditions, Stories of the Life and Customs of the Mississippi Choctaw. He served as a cultural consultant and movie extra for Sinners. Your mic, sir. Would you pass that down, please? So want to welcome you all. That was a great opening, Mr. Wesley. Really do appreciate that. So tonight, we're discussing sinners. But we're not only just discussing sinners, we're discussing sinners in a museum that's dedicated to preserving and celebrating the importance of Mississippi's artists, as well as the state's culture. So I'd like to begin by having each of you talk about why this film resonated with you as Mississippians. Why does there seems to be this really deep connection with sinners and Mississippians. Why does it resonate so much? Could you start us out, Tyler?
Okay.
Because it seemed because I heard that. Yeah. That didn't mean let you start.
So it resonated with me for a lot of different reasons. I think there's definitely like an undercurrent that's happening in Clarksdale that is, I think our ancestors are speaking to us, calling us back home to unveil some of the stories that need to be told, and for the next generation to lead this next chapter of the history of Clarksdale. But the movie, I was really drawn to the history of it. And I think people from the Delta, we know that history is not just the history, it's also the present too. And so like the wide shots of the fields, right, was really beautiful for me. I think some of the opening scenes of them being in like the cotton field and it pans down to them like barefoot, like their feet touching the soil. It was like those small moments like that that really kind of touched me. My day job, I do a lot of work. I work with Partnership for a Healthier America, and my main job is trying to increase access to fresh local food too. And so them getting right the Chinese American corner grocery stores, that was really important. Like it was because Clarksdale is having like an issue when it comes to food access, right? In 2017, Kroger left. But before these big box stores came, like we were anchored by these neighborhood corner stores that they captured, right? And with my day job, I just helped renovate a veteran-owned, Black-owned neighborhood corner grocery store too. And so, and working to get fresh produce in that store. And so even like when we first wrote the letter, you know, this stuff was, again, like this is living history. We're iterating off of that history and kind of going back to our roots. And so just all around, I think I was touched and moved in a lot of different ways. I'm gonna stop though, because I can keep going.
Hello. Okay. Hello. Good evening. I'm happy to be here and thank y'all all for having me. Why did the movie Sinners move me as a Mississippian? When I walked, I ended up going to the theater to see it before the screening in Clarksdale, because thanks to Tyler, I was going to meet Ryan Coogler and Zenzi Evans and the whole team. So I wanted to make sure I saw it before I met them. And so I rushed to Oxford a couple of days before. And I'm not super emotional in movies, but when the movie started, the first 30 seconds summarized the reason that I live in Mississippi, that I have lived in Mississippi for 25 years. And so, I mean, like a month before that, or 5 to 6 weeks before that, we had a panel. I didn't even know about the movie Sinners. Didn't know it was coming out or anything, but we had a panel talk during the Juke Joint, 3 panels during the Juke Joint Festival. One of them was Delta residents speak on the blues. And this panel was focused on bringing the attention back to the culture bearers, the culture sharers, who often are not heard when people come to the home of blues. You know, maybe heard on stage performing, but they were speaking, and Rev Slim was there with us. And that panel, they asked each person, Carrie Alexander, he asked them all, what is the blues to you? And as I remember, every single one of y'all started your answer. Every single one of them started their answer with, the blues is the truth. And that had already struck me when they did it. So when I went in the theater, and I'm just like, okay, let's see what this movie is about, you know, trying to sit back and relax. And I heard that voice. There are legends of musicians who make a music so true. I mean, like, I gasped. I was like, and I was at the movie with my good friend and colleague and mentor and teacher, Galel Kumba, and he's looking at me like, oh, what's she, you know, and then the next statement said, a music so true that it can pierce the veil between the living and the dead. And then, like, in the midst of my first gasp, I was like, oh, I gasped again, because I have witnessed that. at least twice. But I'll keep going. The next statement, she said, and conjure spirits from the past and the future. I literally bowed like that in the theater. I'm like, because this is what I've witnessed. And this is why I do the work that I do. And he's describing this in an ethereal way, but I have experienced these in a real way. And then the last statement, she spoke of the Irish people, she spoke of the Choctaw people, and then she says at the end of that statement, in Africa, these people are called griots. And I mean, I was just over with at that point, because the central element of my work is really to identify the blues musicians as musical historians, not just who sing of a time of struggle, but those pentatonic melodies have sung our epic history before we came here. And we know that during the time of slavery, one of the biggest tragedies was this idea that our history before slavery was lost. And so for 25 years ago, Gilel Kumba, who I was with that day, taught me about the African origins of blues and continued to teach me about the function, and that these are our historians, and that we're continuing these oral history practices in Mississippi, calling them blues, because they were singing of a blue time at that time. And so at that point right there, I mean, I did not expect that. I knew it was going to be a good film. I love Ryan Coogler and his work, but I mean, I was just knocked out. And then when the juke joint scene happened, I lost it.
But Chandra, this is like the first 30 seconds of the film, so you were hooked.
How y'all doing? It resonated a lot to me, simply because, first of all, when I saw it, I saw me. Simply because, not because of the color, not because of what I look like. I actually lived this life. My dad is now still a preacher. So, and I sing the blues. I'm on a blues tour now with Morgan Freeman. And like with the things that we see along the way of this journey, like, of course, we all have a starting point. So I started at Red's Juke Joint. It's right down the street from Ground Zero, if you haven't been. It's one of the legendary juke joints. And Ike Turner got his guitar from there. There used to be a music store, all that, blase, blase. But people come to get the information of the blues and to get the spirit, the feeling of it. This movie speaks on spirits. And I believe what she's saying, like, okay, our origin is not America, evidently. You know, his land is America. You know what I'm saying? But our people been on a trail, which now they call it a blues trail. They call it Natchez Trays. You know, people just go and check these things out. But at the same time, for us to migrate and to bring something with us, people are enhanced by it, and they're saying, I want a piece of that. So people come in there not just to dance and this and that, they're studying it. It's people from overseas that they come like throughout the year. I meet all kind of people from Ireland, Russia. Like, it's much more than some of the people here in Mississippi, was what I'm saying. We don't study our own culture enough to even battle the people that's, you know, that's why some of things, like, not to get into politics, but like defense of war is pretty demanding on, you know what I'm saying, to be really in turmoil than to be a defense. You get what I'm saying? But like what I'm saying, we're not defending or we need to curate, you know. But what I was saying and what it means to me is me, you know. Like I saw myself in it and it was like, wow, it's somebody that actually captured this that goes along in this culture and genre of blues, rap, all of this stuff. 'Cause it's not just blues, but blues is much more of a unsung, which actually created all these other genres that we enjoy.
This film resonated for a lot of different reasons, but I'd say just to keep it short, I love the fact that it was so nuanced in showing Mississippi's stories so vastly from the blues musicians to the church communities, the Chinese communities, the Choctaw communities. Those are stories that aren't always told in such a nuanced and vast way on the screen when it refers to Mississippi. And so, you know, the work that I do at the film office, while we're bringing movies from other places to spend money in Mississippi, we're also nurturing the filmmakers in Mississippi to tell our own stories. And oftentimes, I will say, the ones that are coming from elsewhere might not get all of those details right. But Ryan Coogler did his homework. And I'm so grateful to him for that and to his team for doing that. And I thank them at the event that Tyler and team put together specifically for doing their homework, for telling this very nuanced story, true nuanced story of the history, you know, behind this vampire story. So it really resonated because of that, because, you know, I'm half Indian and half Filipino, but I'm also a Mississippian. So, you know, that's acknowledging the fact that there are more stories here in Mississippi than what we have been historically told. So that's terribly significant to me. And then just on the economic side, my job is to develop Mississippi as a place for film production, film and television production. We want people to come here and spend money, hire our Mississippians, spend money in our hotels and our towns, et cetera. This movie did not get filmed in Mississippi, as I assume most of the audience knows. And yes, we're heartbroken about that. But we're also happy that it happened. We're happy that Ryan Coogler made the decision to call it a real place. He calls it Clarksdale, Mississippi. You can go to Clarksdale, Mississippi, right? So that's fantastic. And these producers, they did come to our office. They did say, hey, can we make this movie in Mississippi? We would like to if we're able to. Unfortunately, their budget is a lot bigger than what our program can accommodate financially at this point. They would have left money on the table. So they needed to go where it made the most sense for them business-wise, economically, and they ended up in Louisiana. But again, they called it Clarksdale. People aren't going to Louisiana after the fact to go see Clarksdale, Mississippi. They're going to Clarksdale, Mississippi. They're spending their money in Clarksdale, Mississippi. They are buying records and listening to music from Mississippi blues artists. I'm also so grateful that they included so many blues artists from Mississippi. So, you know, personally, it resonates, and professionally, it also resonates with the work that I do day to day.
Alito, as one got about Chafale. You're going to get Oakley Michigan. Hello, and yes, I am agreeing with everybody here. But telling the story and having a great experience working with Ryan and Sev and Zinzi with this production. One of the first things they did was reach out and say, hey, we want an authentic Choctaw representation. And we've seen other films and other media that portrays our culture or slightly skewed image of our culture. And so for them to reach out, I was actually was really, I was really glad they did. I was surprised, because they asked, "Hey, do you want to be in a movie called Grilled Cheese?" I was like, "Okay, let's do it." So from that point on, well, it was a great experience, and all the different stories, and we were given like small bits and pieces of information. Didn't even know it was a vampire movie until we got our rehearsal down in dress rehearsal down in New Orleans. But and even then, I didn't know Michael B. Jordan was going to be playing twins. So I was like 3 months into it, and then I found out. That's where we pieced them all together. So it was a great experience. But we didn't even finish the entire movie until it came out in April. I think initially they were going to come out in March, but at end of January, early February, they called out and said, "Hey, do we want to add a little bit more information about fire keepers?" The animation at the beginning of the movie, and a little storytelling and some Choctaw chants and stuff. So that was a great experience, and having to bring in Jaden Wesley in to do the recording, and she had a great time at Warner Brothers Studio in Los Angeles. Luckily, she was just down the road in UCLA, so that's the chant I was doing coming up. To give an example, was the entire war chant. But it's that opportunity to be able to tell our story. And after the movie had came out, and working with there's a big production that's the first time I've ever been in anything like that. So for me, it was a learning experience. Then even watching the movie itself, I learned a lot. It's a rich. Diverse cultural treasure to me. I mean, I love music, and the music just flows throughout the whole movie. And and I've learned a lot just from the movie. And I don't know how many times I've seen it. I saw it again last night. So that was good. But it's the story of who my people are. And my people's story starts even before the Mississippi story begins. So seeing that and everybody driving around, you can see a lot of my people's language written, Okitibiha. There's just the words all around. Tomorrow I'll be in Kuihuma or Kuahuma, which is a Red Panther community college, but it's the rich history and significance of these events throughout our history, and the struggles of diverse people. And we're still here. Society have tried their best by erasing our history, and we're trying to affect that change. And this movie starts that conversation for everybody. Okay, and I learned about the different, even hoodoo. I was like, what is that? and the great thing with Ryan and their team was they did their research. They went and found the people to tell that story and retell it in that film. So that was really awesome.
Well, I want to turn to the music for a minute, because this museum really does kind of embody a lot of that music and the musicians here. And the blues is the roots of American music. I mean, it's really that's really what it is. So why do all of you think that it's important for Mississippi to claim this mantle as the birthplace of American music? Why is that important for us to do that? I mean, I think so often when we think of music, we're often thinking about in the South, we're thinking about Nashville, we're thinking about Memphis. But it's really, you look at a lot of those musicians, they came from Mississippi. Why is it so important for us to claim that mantle? Anyone? Thoughts about that? Reverend Slim?
Why is it important for a man to be on the moon? I mean, if it's something that's yours, why not claim it?
Yeah, I mean it's ours. I mean, and
it's nothing that we're taking. You know what I'm saying? Like, even though that can be the culture, but like I said, it's nothing that we're taking.
But I think it's also it's music. But I often think about the people who wrote the blues weren't just kind of, it wasn't music with a backbeat. There was a story.
Right.
These were our sociologists.
Right.
These are people who were really kind of explaining the social issues of and the way that people actually lived. You know, as I often say, you know, that when someone's talking about the song Big Boss Man, he's not talking about just a boss man. He's talking about the overseer.
Right.
And it's coded. So anyone thinking about that idea of the importance of that? Chandra, you want to jump in there?
Yeah, that's an important question, an interesting question, and my answer may be a little twist on the question as well about why it's important for Mississippi to hold that mantle. Geographically, so much of this culture, I'm going to say, survived here. Again, speaking of culture that we brought, culture that was here already, as well as other people. But in terms of Black American music and blues music, you know, it's found all throughout the South. It's not just found in Mississippi, but there is a concentration here, and there is a longer memory, I think, here, meaning like people here remember longer back. They continue traditions longer than, such as myself. I was born in Chicago, you know, a descendant of great migration, probably 5 generations ago. And so when I got to Mississippi, I was like, something is here, it's so strong. And I realized it was our culture, and it was my African friends and colleagues who came here and said, oh, that's African, that's African, that's African, that's African. Y'all are still being African. You know, you're still doing African things, but you don't know. To the music, and the blues, you know, there's the state of Mississippi, and then there are also the people of Mississippi. And in the early 2000s, when I first started learning about the African origins of blues, I was going around shouting, oh, this is so exciting. This is our history. And now I wasn't getting much reception from formal entities. They were kind of, yeah. And then I was told by somebody who is connected to that, off record, he told me that the reason I was getting that response, in his opinion, was that there was a feeling, a fear or worry that if the state of Mississippi acknowledged that blues is African and that we brought it with us, it would take away from Mississippi's identification as the birthplace of American music. I didn't say it, he told me.
Well, I mean, that's actually, this Africanization of the South was something that was a great fear for a very long time in Mississippi, kind of that I would say post-Civil War era. So through Reconstruction and after Reconstruction. I want to go to a scene from the movie now. So we're going to take a look at the juke joint. I mean, the juke joint is the center of action in Sinners. And I want to talk about this scene that refers to the juke joint. So can we take a look at that now? So that really kind of speaks to the economics of the Delta. And I want to kind of, first I want to say, you know, what do you see there that they're talking about the juke joint and the economics of it, but also the juke joint as this safe space? So, and it's something that, you know, we don't have very many juke joints around anymore. What are we losing culturally by losing that kind of space where there is this, I mean, think about that kind of, where he's just kind of saying, let these people in, let them have their night. They worked hard in the fields. Anyone want to kind of comment on kind of that particular scene as it speaks to the economics of the Delta? I mean, I know you deal with that right now with food access. People probably don't have enough money to get food.
Well, I guess it speaks to several different things, and it kind of goes back to like your first question. I'm thinking about just like the Great Migration and everything. You know, in Clarksdale, that was at Hobson Plantation. That was the plantation where they mechanized for the first time cotton from planting all the way down to processing, right? And so that was ground zero for the mechanization that was happening that led people to go up north, right? But before all of that happened, you had a system like this where people were working on plantations, not even getting real U.S. money, getting wooden coins, and they had to shop at the plantation store, right, to get their food, to get this, to get that. But also some of the people who were living in town, they had to shop at these Chinese merchants, where at the time they had to was pretty much purchasing off of credit, right? And so there just wasn't an opportunity for folks to really gain wealth that they could pass on to the next generation. And so I think one of the biggest questions that I kind of like think about now is, yes, Clarksdale changed the world with its music, with its stories, with the blues. Yes, when it comes to farming, Clarksdale was ground zero in the transformation of our agricultural systems. And the big question I always think about now is, can we do it again? Can we do it again? From the music to the culture to the stories like this, also to agriculture too. And I'm always going to bring the future out. Like, I work in the food and agriculture space, and even like there was a report that was released the 15th yesterday, the World Wildlife Fund. And they said that if the Delta were to put 3% of the land into fruit and vegetable production, that there would be a $3.2 billion industry, right? And so even when I reflect on this and see that economic system, right? When I see the lived stories of my parents, of my grandparents who went to the Chinese merchants, right? But then also the farmers who are really reimagining what agriculture looks like too, like I can, or even Rev and how he's going across the whole country, I can only feel excited about what's to come. But then also just making sure that we don't forget that history too of the economic systems that birthed the blues, that birthed all of this.
Yeah, that economic system is tied to the economics of the present. And then what we have to do is begin to kind of break that economic cycle. So Nina?
I love this scene so much because it shows like all the best things about Mississippi. They're entrepreneurs, they're innovators, they're designers of a space, they're cultural icons, both music, dancing, all of it's all there. They're cooks, they're figuring out, like how do we set up the bar, all of it. It's all there. Everything from scratch. And I think that Mississippians in general, including me, and probably everybody in this room, at some point you have felt looked down upon by the rest of the country or the rest of the world, like we're somehow backwards or we're somehow at the bottom all the time. And so I feel like Mississippians suffer from this collective low self-esteem because everybody's always pointing their finger at us like, you did this and this, and this is an opportunity to see it differently. Like this uplifts all. We're capable. We are capable people. We are innovative people. We are talented people. And I love to see that. And I think it goes back to your question about, should we be claiming this music in the way that we are? Absolutely. Absolutely. For that reason, because we are innovators here. We're talented.
Okay, y'all. I think what we really need to do now is we need to talk about vampires for a minute here. Okay? We cannot have a discussion of this by talking about vampires. And I have to tell all y'all that when my wife said, I just read about this movie that's coming out, and it's got vampires in Mississippi Delta. And I don't know if any of you know the character Clayton Davis from The Wire. And the way Clayton Davis would react to that with an expletive that would begin with an S and that he would stretch out for a very long time. That was exactly my reaction to it. Vampires in the Delta. I won't say that, but anyway. But after I saw Sinners, I was telling several of you that I began to reread Richard Wright's Uncle Tom's Children, and reading the story Big Boy Leaves Home. And then that story, this young man kind of transgresses into a whites only swimming hole and is seen by a white woman and has to be spirited away to Chicago. But it's almost this threshold where he's kind of almost snatched up by vampires, and the vampires are really representing white supremacy. And it's the same thing with Bigger Thomas in Native Son. Once he crosses into the Dalton's house, he's kind of snatched up there. So there's this idea of Southern Gothic that comes up in this film that is, I think it's very unique to Mississippi. So what are your thoughts about the use of vampires in this as a motif? I mean, because I think, as I was getting ready to moderate this panel, I thought, yes, we can't talk about this and not talk about the vampires and what the vampires mean. So anyone want to take a stab at that? I mean, y'all actually warn us about the vampires, because I was thinking the native people, they know this stuff's coming.
Yeah, that's one of the things. It's like when the movie came out, was I was trying to tell people like it's not a horror movie; it's a celebration of music and culture. And we have vampires. And that's basically kind of how the conversations went whenever I try to tell people about the movie itself. And vampires, we know Remick being Irish, and us as the Choctaws, the vampire hunters. We do have a history with our. We have a they went through a potato famine, and the Choctaw group kind of, even though they didn't have money, to scrap together what they could and send it to Ireland for them. So that's kind of resonated with them, and kind of they have a celebration of that giving and helping one another. And they even have a sculpture in Ireland called Kindred Spirits from that event. And that's one thing with my ancestors were. We had a term for it. It's called Iyi Kua, which is broken leg. So basically, if someone needs help, you help them. It doesn't matter who they are, but if they just need help, you help them, and they're going to help you. And that's the system we had going back then. And going back to the vampires, the Choctaw people, my people, have a lot of stories of supernatural. So vampires is just one of them now. But, we have stories of little people, stories of soul eaters, and stories of, we tell our kids to come back from, don't linger too long close to the woods, and so on. So, we tried to warn, and we chased, and, several handy, and one of the producers said, and when he was kind of telling us to set the scene, was like, yeah, this vampire, he did something terrible with your people, and now you guys are chasing him, and that's where we came on the scene. And so we had to get that story and get that aggression going, and we had that Choctaw yell and cry, chasing this guy, knowing what he was. But, throughout the movie, I told my wife, that, hey, Remick, he's one of my favorite characters. Because, the things he said was like, you can let go of all of this oppression of, struggle if we all kind of work together and be one people as vampires. But, and he was funny throughout the whole production too. So, but in any case, it's we do have a history of supernatural beings as part of our storytelling.
I mean, I also think that, kind of Remick saying, okay, we can all be one people, and, kind of, yet you're not really going to be a person anymore. It's almost as, for me, that kind of spoke to the mutability of white supremacy. This is what kind of how white supremacy kind of mutates into something else, where you can kind of believe that, oh yeah, we're all going to be okay. But then it's like, no, you're not. So, yeah, I'd say false promises do factor into that as well. So, any other thoughts about this, Chandra? I'm looking at you now.
I understand it. Well, when I first heard that it was about vampires, I was like, "What? What does that have to do with anything?" You know.
You did the reaction that I did too.
Yeah. And then I saw the movie and I said, okay. And as we were mentioning, they were super talented, very talented, those dance scenes. But back to the reality of things, one great thing about this film is that as a person who lives in Clarksdale in the Delta, I would say he was able to maybe say some things that are, or show some things that are not always easy for us to be able to pronounce out loud. Okay. So since I'm pronouncing out loud, that's all I'll say. No, I'm just kidding. But I'd say maybe after I saw the movie and I continued to live my life, you know, I went to different places and there were some times where I was like, this is that scene. And as you said, this idea that we can be together, but then you're not a human anymore.
Yeah, that's exactly what I began to think about. So, yeah, that's exactly you hit it. That's exactly what I was thinking about.
And I just wanted to be really clear, since I do it, I'm not just talking about color. It is an economic thing, and if I have to put a word on it, I would say that tourism is a double-edged sword. It's a blessing and a curse.
Yeah, I would agree with that too.
The industry.
Yeah, but I want to return to you, Jay. I mean, I'm thinking about this. That what did it mean for you to have the Choctaw tradition kind of play such a prominent role in a film about Mississippi? And I mean, you're from a people who we tried to remove from this land as well. What does that mean to you to play such a significant your traditions to play such a central role in this?
It was a great experience that almost didn't happen, because when they reached out and said they want that Choctaw authentic a portrayal, Sev said, okay, I'm gonna set a scene. You're chasing a really bad guy, and he's gonna come up to this cabin and he's gonna say all sorts of bad stuff about your people. I was like, Sev, I can't do that. So no, he's like, wait. You gotta wait till the end, but everybody's gonna learn the truth of the matter at that point. So I was like, okay, that sounds good. So that's how I ended up sticking with it. And it's that conversation that, for me, this movie is a conversation starter for my own people also. My own young tribal members are asking about this. And one question was like, did we have vampires in our past? And I said, yes. Yeah, do your research, learn, and, find out. So I didn't tell them no, but but at least it'll give them a chance to learn about their own history, a history of Mississippi, the history of learning and answering their own questions by finding that information and learning about other people themselves. So, but it's just the opportunity to kind of tell our story from our own perspective. That's where it was really a great experience. Even throughout the production, we didn't have speaking parts, until one of the guys said, "Hey, can't we just try this?" And Ryan, he's a great director. He listened. He's like, "Is that what y'all do?" I was like, "Yeah, that's what we do." And I said, "Okay, let's put that in there. Let's try it out." And then we shot the scenes, and we had our I guess horseback riders. The scout leader was Mark Patrick, and he's the one that says, Tushpa Kalia, and then in the language, he just kind of gives us cues of what's going on, and the sun is going down. And Eric, which is the other guy, I'm in the back of that truck, and he's with me. It's like, hey, why don't we yell? Because that's what we would do. We're chasing, being a prey, going to war, or there's a lot of things with that yell. And I was like, yeah, let's ask Ryan. And then he asked him, like, Ryan's like, yeah, let's try it out. So, even during the production, and he listened. I mean, that was a great experience. Is like the production team listened and is that what y'all do? Is that what represents Choctaw? The research, the look, the sashes, and some of those are over here on display. That was in the movie, the Gorget, and working with Ruth Carter, the costume designer, and she was asking us, okay, can you send me pictures and can you send me research from the 1930s and how you guys looked so we can have that authentic feel. So, and working with them and them listening and trying different things and, working with that movie magic and, our authentic look and feel, it was, for me, it was just, hey, we're telling our story on, I guess, a platform this big, because, there's Hollywood coming to Mississippi there for us and looking into the Mississippi Band of Choctaw Indians. I'm like, I want to tell it the right way and I want to tell it our way. And so at the end of this process, I can kind of utilize this platform to reach our own young tribal members. So.
Okay, well, I want to look at another scene right now. Let's look at the dance scene from Sinners. So it gives a whole new meaning to blow the roof off the sucker. So the Delta is really so often, I think people outside of Mississippi see this place through a black-white binary. And Mississippi and the Delta in particular has always been this multicultural, multiracial space. What did that scene say to you about, what did it evoke for you about the cultural significance and relevance of the Mississippi Delta to American culture? I mean, really, because I think we think about it as ours as Mississippians, but it's American. And I think that's what you really see on display there. At least that's what I see. Anyone want to speak about that for a minute? The idea that what about it, Trev?
I guess I'll say, just like you were saying, it's America's. I agree with it simply because the root it's basically showing where it came from. Basically, like the root is rooted deeply, from Mississippi. Even if you look at the landmass of America, you see a lot of some of the similarities of all the states intertwined. Like Arkansas looks just like Kansas City, Texas look like South Haven, So it's a lot of things like that we really, like I said, we don't unmask to be able to collaborate and say, hey, we are one, because even with his chants, and he was saying like it's spiritual, or even given the peace treaties that they give each other. As you can see, our culture, African culture, has its rituals as well, which is dance. And all of us, at the end of the day, like it's no border to the blues, or should I say music, because like I said, blues is pretty much the root of it all. That's what I saw in it. Like, yeah, we started from just toe tapping, just on the floor, to being able to electrify it, because after you leave Mississippi, you go to Chicago and they'd be like the birthplace of blues. You know what I'm saying? It's like, nah, not, it becomes, how can I say, not saying that we're against each other, but it becomes a conversation piece to be like, well, y'all electrified it, but it came from...
Yeah, that it became something different when it went to what I refer to as the Up South. So
Right. But it goes back to you saying like, okay, well, if it came from Africa, then is it really Mississippi's? You know what I'm saying?
yeah.
So like, what's the culture of America?
So Chandra?
That is, he said so much. In the original music before it came here, that music was not allowed to be recorded. It could only be experienced in person. And griot is a French word, but the Fulani call them mabos or galos. They're called jellies and jollies. And these people, the history that they sing it predates the written word. I kept asking some of my Gaulo and Mabo friends, how old is it? How old is it? Give me a year, give me a year. They never would give me a number. And so then I asked Mamadou Sek, he's known as the shepherd of the arts, La Bergère des Arts. He lives in Paris and he's a Gaulo, meaning his family has been keeping this history for thousands of years. And I told him, I said, well, okay, leave the number off. Describe in your own words, how old is this music that we call blues? And he translated, I watched him in his mind. Then he said, from the beginning. And I said, okay. And then I talked to Anna Lomax Woods, the daughter of Alan Lomax, who recorded Muddy Waters and many other people. And she's a musicologist in her own right, as well as a partner with our center in the last few years. And she said that in the Western tradition, American musicology, they would identify the age of that music as at least 70,000 years old. That means we came from somewhere. And the reach that this music has is a reflection of our identities and our power.
Can I add to that?
Yeah.
Just my experience, like I said before, watching this movie, I saw myself. So, like, for example, Reds is a juke joint, right? Not saying that this is the only juke joint that's in Clarksdale. This is the only one that we're telling you that it's best for you to come to. So, like, but I also say though, before Red Payton died, when I started coming, it wasn't no pictures allowed. Like Facebook Live and all of that, it had just started booming. So, you know, everybody with technology, they just like, look where I'm at. And he just like, we ain't having it blank today. Put it up, this and that, woo the woo. And like, it wasn't to be mean, but it was pretty much to, you know what I'm saying, like cultivate, make sure that
Make sure people were actually in the moment.
Yeah.
Rather than actually, rather than saying you're
the experience
you're documenting.
Yeah.
It's like you can't really experience the music if you're documenting it, because documenting it's real different. I want to move to another scene now. Did you have something you want to say?
I might be long, but it's important.
Okay. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I think I kind of just wanted to add to what both of y'all were saying, because like part of this is just like honoring the authentic music, honoring the story, and really experiencing it like in person. And I don't know, I'm starting to just think about just us getting the film to be screened in Clarksdale. There's this quote that I really want to say. It says, when we merge our internal rhythms with the rhythms of creation, we develop grace in our movement. And without thought or effort, we are able to slide into the perfectly choreographed dance of life by Sherry Mitchell. And I wanted to like say that because I think that scene honored the blues, honored the diversity of the Delta, but also how we got the film here too. And when I wrote the letter that got Warner Brothers here, people don't know this story. I actually was on the Choctaw Reservation when I wrote the letter. I was there for like a food system fellowship. So I was there with farmers from all over like the state of Mississippi. And I wrote it, I got there, I wrote it. but I put out a Facebook post and pretty much invited people like, hey, like we need to write this letter. And everybody was just like, let's do it. So I was going to Choctaw, got there, wrote a draft of the letter. That next day, I don't know if people noticed, but the Pearl River, the head of the Pearl River that flows through Jackson and empties in the Gulf of Mexico, Gulf of America, I don't know which one to call it.
Gulf of Mexico.
It starts on the Choctaw Reservation near a mound. And I think that mound is a part of you all's like origin story. Yes. And I washed my hands in that water, going back to the dance of being connected and being just in that moment. And I think that next day, that Sunday, somebody else like who I was working with, who was on the team, she was like, hey, you need to go ahead and release this. You need to go ahead and release it. And we just like, I released it and like, we were just trying to test it out. Like even like my name being on the petition, like if I would have thought about it a lot longer than what I had, like I would have probably said like a coalition of Clarksdale people, you know? But we wrote it and we sent it to, I sent it to like one person. They sent it to Aaliyah, who's a journalist who kind of like blew it up, and it just kind of like stayed, and it was like, no, Tyler Yarbrough wrote it. But there was this huge community of folks who like, we were just primed in that moment. There was, Clarksdale, the people who like Chandra, all the people who was working with, we were ready for that moment. We had been working together. We've had all the conversations of like what we're talking about right now, but just on Delta Avenue, just talking. And then when we were able to get them here, one of the last stops that I took Ryan Coogler was to a farm. It's a Black-owned farm. A group of 10 Black churches got together and bought this land from like the 20s, 30s, 40s, and 50s. And it's on this sacred land called a hush harbor. And so pretty much like during slavery, a lot of like enslaved people would come to this land to pray, to praise in secret from the plantation. And they built churches on those same spots. It was in Jonestown, Mississippi, and we was on that land. And, next to it was like a swamp because, when they were hiding, like they could like easily hide. And the last thing Ryan Coogler did before he left was wash his hands in that swamp water. And so I just wanted to share that because I think it's really important. But also I think we got to be in alignment, especially like, I think what made it so special is that like, that story alone, there was an honoring of the native lands, right? There was an honoring of like Black folks' contributions in addition to that too. I just wanted to share that. I haven't just shared that story publicly.
Thank you for that. But I do want to go to this next scene in the church with Sammy. So, because this scene really deals with the idea of the blues as the devil's music. So, now, we all know that this idea of the devil in the blues means a lot of things. A lot of times, it was not really kind of the devil. It wasn't Beelzebub. It was the white overseer. But one of the things, thinking about that scene, but also thinking about the opening of the movie, where that guitar that he picked up, he never lets it go. And for me, what that said was, the blues is his religion. That's what it really said to me. But what does he never drops the neck of that guitar. He never lets it go. But what do you see as the significance of that to kind of this idea of the blues as the devil's music?
I'll say really quick that, having learned with some people about and continuing to learn, I'm still continuing to learn about the function of the music before it came here. The music has the power to bring about a spiritual experience. And there's a Nigerian musician who said, Ade Bantu, he said that our traditions, going way back, the spiritual music was allowed to go outside of the spiritual place because we take our spirit with us wherever we go. And back then and there, he said there was no red flag on that. Like you could do it in the worship place and you could do it everywhere. And that's what I see here as well, because a lot of the musicians come from the church. A lot of people were going to church and then going back. But I think that there's a distortion that happens to all of our culture in the context of America. And it's sometimes hard for us to clarify things because there's so much other stuff going on. I think about Jay, you said earlier when they asked you to be in the film, first they said, they told you something you didn't really like. And you said, no, I'm not going to be able to do that. And I think that's something that we have to learn from, because often we go and represent ourselves in all kinds of ways, and then all different kind of stuff is going on and we can't hear ourselves anymore. So I think sometimes if we can quiet and just observe who we are without the commentary and allow our authentic selves to rise up, you can't deny the connection between the music and the church and blues music.
Yeah. I don't want to override, but in the same sense, okay, as far as like the scripture quote, and it kind of ties up with another scripture that's in 2 Chronicles 7:14. Like if my people are called by my name, they humble themselves and pray. It's like if we humble ourselves, just like she was saying, some things that we take in our own effect, and blues was something that we took in our own effect, and just as well as he was saying, like the spirits and gods, like we're still connected. Like some people don't know it, but we're still connected to it. And like, even though then at that time, and Honesty Song couldn't read, that was another thing. Like growing up in a Baptist, and I was born in the 90s. I ain't gonna tell you just too much. But as far as that, I was born in the 90s, and it was some preachers that still then couldn't read, but they had people to voice, hey, this is what the Bible says. And they had an understanding, enough of knowledge to gather that and be like, oh, okay, well, this is what I'm gonna project to, our people. So like in so many ways, like I said, we in the blues culture, or even just in the spirit realm, like warning come before destruction. So that was basically like his dad was trying to tell him, like, hey, it's gonna be some things out there I can't protect you with, but we have free will, and that would cause the effect of where it is,
Yeah, and the blues saved him. Now I want to look at one final scene. I want to close out with one final scene, then you're going to perform for us, right? Okay, so we'll look at the final scene.
Before you, I just want to say something 10 seconds, because you asked me this question and I kind of avoided it about the vampires. All I'll say is that whenever after slavery ended and the cotton was mechanized, we continued to be exploited, not for our labor, but for our culture.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's very true, and that's really that's at the core of what the vampire is trying to do at the end. He is trying to take music from Sammy. He sees that he has something. So again, that idea of extraction and the Delta as this place of extraction.
I gotta add to this too, and I know Chandra, you kind of like skirted around like the tourism. You mentioned it, but again, in these Delta counties who have tourism boards and all that too, like if we're going to really empower the local residents, when it comes to tourism, we need to really be training in it and have a pipeline for the next generation to have like festivals and blues shows and all the things, right? And actually get paid and make some money off of it too. But right now, I don't think that pipeline is as clear. I think that Centers Weekend show our tourism folks that like there's a whole sector of people who's in Alabama, Arkansas, Black folks who we can be drawing that we're not actively going after and seeking. And I think we got to get together and propose what does tourism looks like to make that pipeline very clear. There needs to be like an earmark $50,000, $60,000, $70,000, I don't know, directed to newcomers who want to start festivals and people who are local. Like there's got to be like a policy lens to this too, to bend it to help locals.
There's a disconnect between kind of what we want tourism to do and kind of thinking about the future of the music. Because I think about Kriston Ingram, that when he started playing the blues, a lot of his friends made fun of him. And so what this film, I think, shows to young people, this is a really cool art form.
And I gotta say this, and it's even beyond that too. It's the music, it's the food, it's the stories, it's the braiding, it's the pottery, it is the land, the farming, it is all of it. And so you got to have some comprehensive view of how all of this look like for the future of a region that is dying. From Clarksdale is losing population. It's like the biggest county, Coleman County, like they lost population in its last census. And so it's almost like it's survival or not at this moment. I think a lot of people see that locally in Clarksdale and trying to chart it.
Yeah, I feel like the excitement comes from seeing us make something out of nothing. If that makes sense.
Makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
But it don't have to be like that. I think
and
there's
that's
a
what I'm
core,
saying.
that
Like,
scrappiness is a part of us. But
don't just continue to be like, oh, they good, but they real good. I like that boy. But you know, you don't want to enhance that. You don't want to,
I think what you're saying.
That's what he was saying. Like, I agree with it. Like, don't just admire me from afar. Like, help me.
I think what you're saying is that in a lot of ways, the way tourism is working, that Black folks are still taking the plantation script.
I mean, literally, if I'm not mistaken, I believe tourism paid for it to be screened.
They sponsored it.
But I'm just saying, like, it took more for a home base to take it in it. Like, in so many ways, what I'm saying, it shouldn't be, what's taken shouldn't be just given.
And our struggle is what's sold. It's like part of the aesthetic that, and even in the current definition of blues, for decades and so long, blues are said, it's not all sad, it's not all sad. But there's still, this is what's being sold. Oh, this is the music of our, it does tell that story too, but it tells all of our stories, not just our struggle, but we have this identity imposed upon us of struggle in America, in Mississippi, and people are capitalizing on the idea of us continuously struggling.
But then you also see the joy. And that's the thing, is that this is what's great about this movie. You see the joy. I want to get to this last scene because I think it's an important scene, and I want you to be able to perform now. So let's look at this last scene. Well, he's looking back on his younger self, and when he goes over to him and he sniffs and says, "You don't have long." That just kind of brought a chill to me. Thinking about that and kind of this, what is it that you see as a significance of that? This is kind of the way this movie closes out. It's the best day of their lives. What is that? What is that? You were humming along there. This seems to really resonate with you.
That's a good thing. I think it's a good song. I don't know.
I don't know. I mean, I just think about this too as kind of where so much of the blues is something that I see as today for us that's getting lost in translation. And that's kind of what he was saying to him. I don't like that electric stuff as much. I like the real stuff. And that's when he does that for them and he goes back in time. So I think what he's talking about is that what Albert Murray called that the signifying power of the blues. That in this moment, that's kind of you are getting the power of the blues from that. And that's what I really took away from that scene. I don't know what anyone else had that reaction, but Nina?
I don't know if I have the right words to say this, but I think for me that really resonates because in our lives are complex, and there are going to be sorrows and there are going to be hardships, but there's still joy, and these things do live in the same space together. And sometimes, you know, we feel we can experience all of these things, and there is a freedom when you can shed the hardship and just be in the joy. And that's what they're talking about. They were able to shed all of that and live in the joy. I hope Ryan Coogler wins all the awards. That's what I think. Because that scene just, it's beautiful. It's beautiful.
I like to say is in depth to be, it's beauty in the struggle is what I see in it, simply because, for example, my grandmother helped raise me, but when I lost her, I was I saw the world in a whole different realm. So when you go through hardships, I'm talking about real hardships, it actually changed your whole, look on life. You know what I'm saying? But at the same time, in that scene, to see the change, and by the way, between anybody ever probably played that part, it was gonna be between Bobby Rich and Buddy Guy, because these guys have seen, the revolution of music all the way, but for him to see the revolution and to still be a part of it, and at the same time still last, that's pretty much what it got to me. It was after all of this that done happened, it's still, it's still Leo, blues still Leo.
Yeah. And now the blues still lives, and you're going to play some for us.
Absolutely.
Okay, so we're
Can I add something? Yes. Maybe I'm odd, but for me, it was a much larger overall image. For me, it was a summation of the Black experience. Not being Black, but that's what the movie's about. That's what the movie's about. And it was, joy, sorrow, everything in between. Everything what all of you were talking about.
It was like that. I feel that moment was they were being themselves. And we have been here for generations upon generations without being able to be ourselves.
There's a hand up in the back there. Yes, ma'am.
So as a retired English teacher, as a music lover, as a movie lover, this is one of the most powerful movies I've ever seen. And there was so much symbolism going on. And so the symbolism of him having the half guitar going to the church, the music was hope. It was hope to escape. When he shut the Bible, he was leaving. He was not coming back. When he did his quote, he was not coming back. And that final scene, do you realize that all of this movie is about one night? One night. It started on a Saturday. It started on a Saturday morning, and it went to the juke joint, and then it ended with Sunday going to church. So there was such a parallel between the juke joint and the church, because that was a saving grace, a safe ground for Black people. They worked the fields sun up to sundown. And so the church and the juke joint was the outlet. And so that's the powerful thing is the twins had gone to Chicago, brought this juke joint idea for one night, for one single night. So it was the best night of their lives. So who knows what they were doing without this particular juke joint, but they were going somewhere probably to celebrate on a Saturday night. So I just want to say this, and I appreciate this because this is, it was a great movie. It really was.
Thank you. That's an amazing comment. Thank you for that so much. So want to turn it over to you, Rep, to play for us?
I'm gonna give a minute to set up, and if
Okay,
y'all don't
all
mind,
right.
I go.
So
ahead.
while he's setting up, there are the questions from the audience.
In my mind, my voice is really loud, y'all. To me, the summation of the movie was humanity. And we went to the Mississippi Arts Commission convention this week. And one thing that really stuck out to me during one of the sessions is that the speaker said that humanity has become so cringy that I don't want my humanity to touch your humanity. And so we have to talk about things like vampires. We have to use vampires to talk about humanity. And like when she mentioned so much of the symbolism, to me, the symbolism represented the joy and the pain in growth, because I do sing blues and I am from Clarksdale. Like you see all of those levels. So with them being vampires, I think about the fact that it's living forever, but there is no soul. And that's what they have done with so much of blues music. Robert Johnson was a very religious man. He was dead by the time they said he sold his soul. But this is a legend that it's never going to die, but there is no soul in it. When they were doing the juke joint scene and the juke joint burned down, to me, that was symbolism of the more we push our music out into the world, the more we travel and we enjoy the joy of that, we are also exposed because we have no safe space. So to me, it really highlighted humanity. And when they said for one night we were free, for one night we got to be human. We could dance if we were happy. We could drink and cry if we were sad, if that's just what we wanted to do. We got to be human. And so I'm really grateful that they captured that and that it didn't go over our heads. Because if it went over our heads, we'd be like, man, that was a good movie about vampires, man. You know what I mean? So I just love that it captured the humanity of our lifestyle.
Up here. So
And
we can keep talking about
yeah,
the sets up.
let's also have some good imagination of what our future really looks like too, like in the midst of all of that.
Big boss man, don't you hear me when I call? Big boss man, don't you hear me when I call? Well, you ain't so big. You just talk, that's all. Well, I wanna get a drink of water. You won't let me get none. I'm trying to get up out of here, out of this hot sun, big boss man. Don't you hear me when I call? Well, you ain't so big. You just talk, that's all. I'm gonna get me a boss man, one that gon' treat me right. Work hard in the daytime and sleep good at night, big boss man. Don't you hear me when I call? Well, you ain't so big. You just talk, that's all. just all, that's all. Thank y'all, thank y'all. That was like a description of some of the things, like I said, they were trying to hide in this scene, kind of like expressing themselves, just like you were saying, just being on their field and working a little bit, trying to get it off their chest, and just saying like, hey, you know, I know for a fact, like, you my boss, but like, hey, y'all need to get it right, cause I might just, you know, I ain't gonna keep sizing you up now. I'm gonna try you. Yeah, but this is another one. I can say it's pretty much in showing you the form of the blues kind of changing, but it was in the same form. It's Mississippi, Albert King. Y'all ever? Across, yeah. Some of your long lost friends, all your loneliness, yeah. I try to soothe, yeah. I'll play the blues for you. I don't have a big name. Lord knows I'm not a big star, but I play the blues for you on my guitar. All your loneliness, hey, I try to soothe, yeah. play the blues for you. Thank you. Guess I give you another one that's come around in the effect of, how can I say, the connection between gospel and the blues. It's a real thin line. Oh, I once had love and plenty money. Somewhere, Lord knows I feel. But all I have in my pocket, all I have a count of is a nickel and a nail. My friends, Lord, they don't know. Say somewhere down in their hearts, they think I'm doing swell. Because every now and then I smile and I jingle. Oh yeah, all that I be jingling is a nickel in a nail. Now they got another song that goes something like this. I come from a poor family. I didn't have much, but the Lord been good to me. I come from a poor family. I didn't have much, but the Lord been good to me. Y'all got that little bit? Y'all get. Will you sit up there and you kind of just give an example to be like, hey, you know, this is what I'm going through, but at the same time in this gospel, you got a boss man, for example, just like you got big boss man. Don't you hear me when you worried about the earthly boss man, but then on the biblical side, it's saying I got a boss man that go treat me right. So once you know who you talking about, it ain't no. You get what I'm saying? Y'all get what I'm saying? Oh, so y'all can pretty much see why I got my name. Oh, okay. I think I got one more, and I'm going to get out the way for you. I'm going to take y'all back to church. Can you come up here and help me? Ooh, don't. Y'all clap with me. Y'all give it up for Miss Edna Nicole. Ooh, don't let the devil ride. Whoa, don't let the devil ride. Well, if you let him ride, he'll surely wanna drive. Don't let him ride. Well, don't let him wear your shoes. Oh, don't let him wear your shoes. Well, if he wear your shoes, he'll have you singing the blues. Don't let him ride. Well, don't let him flag you down. Hey, don't let him flag you down. If he flag you down, he'll turn your soul around. Don't let him ride. Well, don't let him ride. 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 Hey, don't let him ride. Don't let him ride. Oh, don't let him ride. Whoa, don't let him ride. Don't let him ride. Don't let him ride. Don't let him ride. Thank y'all. Y'all give it up for me, Edna Nicole. She's trying to run up out of here. Yes, we are. We actually are. We are working. Yeah, we're working on some things. Like I said, this is Edna Nicole. We also have music out together. As you can see, I see that a lot of people are intrigued with the Crossroads. We have a song called Love at the Crossroads. It's pretty much like how we met. That's the reason why I said, like, it's a lot of stuff in that movie that I'm just like, man, somebody been watching me. Yeah, it's on Apple Music, Spotify, YouTube. Y'all look for it. I'm gonna do one more, and it's gonna be like I said, I guess I get out. Is one more? We good? Okay. My daddy is a preacher, and mama, she sanctified. I said my daddy is a preacher, and mama, she sanctified. They say I was born by the devil, 'cause poor Slim didn't want to get baptized. Don't y'all know that he took me to church? And they wanted old Slim to pray. Don't you know they took me on to church, y'all? And they wanted old Slim to pray. So I got down on my altar. And don't y'all know, I didn't know what to say. Until I started living, y'all. I became grown, had kids of my own. And then I started realizing what they meant by that blues song. I'm pretty sure everybody know it. And they call it a little something like this. Say they call it Stormy Monday, but Tuesday just as bad. They said Wednesday's worse, And Thursday's all so sad. The eagle flies on Friday. And Saturday, most of the time I'm playing. I said the eagle flies on Friday. And Saturday, I'm usually playing. Now I'm still going to church, y'all. But you best believe I know what to say. And I cried, Lord, 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 have mercy on me. I cried, Lord, 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 have mercy on me. Because if it wasn't for you, Father, Lord knows where I'd be. Just thought I'd throw that in there simply because, like I said, my daddy really is a preacher. And my mama don't play about that. So just to give you a little history on me, I'm Reverend Slim from Grenada, Mississippi. A lot of people put me in Clarksdale, which that is my second home. I just, when they say it, I say, yep. They ask me, where you from? Then I done got so used to it, I just said Clarksdale. They be like, yeah, he from Clarksdale, because he know how to say Clarksdale. Everybody said Clarksdale when they come visit the Clarksdale. Come to Clarksdale. Come to Clarksdale. Then I ain't gonna try to make y'all just become immigrants or anything. But I enjoyed this panel and I appreciate you all having me. And actually, just before, like I said, it was truly a surprise and a response just to be like, hey, do you want to be a part? And I'm like, of course. I was just in Jackson with, what's your name again, bro? I want to make sure I have your name right, bro. Okay, because I'll just go call you Jay. All right, so John Spann, y'all give it up for this guy. He played a lot of pivotal roles in these things, and he reached out to me, and we had a panel on a documentary that I co-produced with a few other guys called Talking Clarksdale. And this actually came before the movie Centers. But like I said, we're screening it now in Atlanta tomorrow. But I met him along the way. And like I said, our energies like transpired. And like I said, it's a lot of good things been going on. And I really appreciate him for bringing me in and showing me new things around this area. This is my first time in this museum. And just like I said, in this space. So I appreciate you all bringing me in and accepting me as one of your own. Thank y'all for sticking with me. Thank you, sir, for everything that you've done. And thank you for like I said, pretty much like emceeing the program. I'm a church kid, so like I know you get what I'm saying. I appreciate you emceeing the program and getting us around through there where y'all can get a little taste and a little inside works on the storyline. Thank y'all. I ain't gonna say too much. And I'm sorry, you know, cut me off. Thank the engineers for having the sound and the acoustics for me. And they actually fixed my guitar. I had a little hum in it, and he took it back there and handled it. So I appreciate that. Thank you, man.
To learn more and support the Mississippi Arts and Entertainment Experience, go to msarts.org.